Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 2020. I'm joined here with my good friend Brandon Haas. Thank you for being here, dude. It's so awesome to have you
Good
on
being
here.
here.
It's our first special guest, really. It's just been me and Russ so far.
It's an honor.
No, I'm really excited to get to do this. So I know you pretty well. They don't know you. You want to tell me, who you are?
I'm Brandon, as Jacob said. I kind of grew up knowing Jacob from high school wrestling. We were pretty close there.
We would have met freshman year, probably.
Your freshman year.
We weren't friends till probably my junior year. I'd say your senior year.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of like knew each other and like
just
you're
general
kind of that little like small kid in the team, you know, where it's like, this little kid, he had like a 25 to 24 match at districts. He finally won a match. Like, if you don't know, like, Jacob when he was younger, like, so his freshman year, he's like this little tiny dude wrestling at 106, and you probably didn't even weigh more than 100, did you?
No, I was sitting, like, right at 99.
Yeah,
98.
and so, like, he had a hard time winning any matches because he was one of our only lightweights, so we had to put him in at 106 varsity. He took his lumps. And then at districts, he wrestled against this other kid who was similar in size, similar in attribute level, you know, and it was like, I remember at the end of the year banquet, we just kept playing it because like, Jacob won this match, we got to show it. And it was like an 8-minute match. You guys were just like, it reminds me of like when I was a little kid. It was like, remind me when I was a little kid because like one of my first matches that like I have recorded, I was like 4 years old, and like we're just like flipping each other around and like rolling, like it was like a 30-point match, and that's kind of what I remembered.
Yeah, it was bad. Anyway, so yeah, me and Brandon met on the wrestling team, and that's kind of where we got to know each other, where we got to go close. We kind of bonded over the sport, and that I'm so happy that friendship continued outside of high school.
For sure. Yeah, I think it kind of got a little distant at times when I went away to UNI, and it was your senior year.
So after your senior year, you went straight to
I went to wrestle at University of Northern Iowa, and then I think there's a lot of things that went into me coming back, and now this is going in my second year, University of Dubuque, but just things weren't going well with wrestling, like injuries. I was constantly getting my back injured after surgery.
Yeah.
And just like me not being strong in my faith, because there's a lot of temptations, like as Russell talked about on an earlier podcast, going to UNI, there's so many freedoms that you don't experience at home, especially if you have like a good home structure. And I think it was honestly a really good thing for me though, because like without that transition, I wouldn't be like the person I am today. So I'm really thankful for that. And so my third semester after that, I transferred back to NICC. Kind of wanted to figure out,
for a little bit. That was fun.
Kind of wanted to figure out what I want to do with my life, and then after that, I kind of decided I wanted to go into the coaching realm instead of being an athlete. Yeah. So I went to UD, started coaching at Hempstead, and now I have this year and another year for before I become a teacher.
Sweet.
So that's kind of
your
brief overview.
Student teaching next year.
Yeah, I'll be doing student teaching next spring. So I'm not sure where I'm going to be at yet, but it'll be somewhere in the Dubuque area. So I'm really looking forward to like getting out there because you can only learn so many things, from like classroom and like getting told, like this is what kids are going to do in this situation. So I'm super excited to get into the schools more because I just love working with kids. It's a passion of mine.
That's awesome. So you're at UD now.
Yep.
What's your class load like?
I got 17 credits plus I have portfolios, which is like a required 0 credit class that you have to do before you can get into your student teaching, and that's kind of a lot of work. So a lot of education classes, and then kind of a few things didn't transfer over well from UNI. So I'm currently in a religion class right now. It's called Who is God, and that's been like another.
That's the title of the class.
It's called Who is God.
Cool.
And like we have all these different like segments, like learning from like Genesis to like Adam and Eve, to like Noah, to like Jesus's time, like God the lawbreaker and God like the promise maker and all this different stuff.
How's that? So I know UD's Presbyterian, right?
Yeah.
So it does have some type of religious affiliation, but I know it's pretty much, for all intended purposes, it's pretty much kind of a public college. You pay for a private college, but it's the feel of a public university. Yeah. I like that. So you do have a religion class.
Yes.
So who is God? What's that been like? I mean, going into that, what was kind of your knowledge or I guess feelings going into that class? What did you know?
I think before that I started backing up a little bit. I think last year, in the winter time, I knew you started getting real strong with your religious faith and kind of your relationship with Jesus.
Sure.
And it was something that I became interested in. So I really wanted to like get to know this guy, like, you know, get to this Jesus, get to know him better and create a relationship. And that was going well. And then kind of things kind of drifted off, you know, from going to church and stuff. And then kind of, I think a lot of things like seeing you and my friend Adam and all this different stuff, like working together. And then this religion class kind of brought me like stronger into my own faith and like more like mature and building a better relationship with God.
I find that so cool because most people don't like create a relationship with Jesus from a religion class.
Yeah,
and like that's unique, and that's a really cool skill set because I don't know, is there a lot of disinterested people in that class?
There are. Probably. Like there's kind of like you can kind of tell like the difference. Like there's the people who are like real invested in like are like, oh yeah, like this is really fun. More, like I want to know more about this guy. Then there's some people who are like, you know, this is a gen ed requirement. Like I don't know if I want to be here. Like the first day we had class, there's this kid who's is an athlete, one of the sports programs in the team, and like we were asking the professor questions in the first day, and like the thing he asked is like, why do we have to take this class? He's like, why do I have to be here?
Just that kind of guy.
Yeah, like and then
no, but that's really cool. So you're growing in this class. You're eating up the knowledge, the stuff that it eating up the stuff that it provides, getting that information. So tell me, what have you like covered? You know, what is the material in this class? It's called Who is God? So how do you dive into that?
We started out like right at the start. You know, we learned about Genesis 1 and kind of the creation story of God's way. Then we kind of learned like the Babylonian creation story as well, which is super weird.
Started with history.
We kind of like when I was like them contradicting themselves and kind of seeing the Babylonian ones a little, you know, like far-fetched and out there.
Okay.
And then we kind of went into, you know, like Adam and Eve, Noah's Ark, and like one thing I thought was interesting that I didn't realize before was like when all this stuff was happening, you know, God felt bad about what he did with Noah's Ark, and so he like made a promise to like never try to like kill and like humans again.
Yeah.
And like
you remember what it was? His sign, his promise. It was a rainbow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's like the rainbow is going to be that's the symbol of my promise to never destroy this world again with the flood. That's pretty cool.
That's cool. And then we learned about like Abraham, obviously, and then like Moses and like Pharaoh's Egypt. That was like a really big topic. Like learned about like the hierarchy system that they had in Egypt back then, and kind of like relate into like possibly like today's world. And then like, you know, afterwards, like the people who followed Jesus or Moses, and they went to the wilderness school and got like the 10 Commandments handed down to them. And then talked about a few more things, the Old Testament. And then just recently we started getting into focusing on Luke.
That's what I want to talk about. So you started with the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Kind of just got the history. And that makes sense. You know, if you're going to read the New Testament, you got to kind of understand that the Old Testament. And we learn, and I'm sure the more you get into it, you learn that the Old Testament is kind of telling the story of the New Testament.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. So when did you start? You started in Luke.
Yeah, we've been studying Luke for like 2-3 weeks now.
Oh, sweet. So
and we kind of started out. We kind of been, you know, following the chronological order of Jesus' life. You know, with Gabriel coming to Mary, and you know, Mary and Joseph leaving, and then Jesus being born and all this stuff he's done, you know, in his time. And we got all the way up to the crucifixion. Last week we covered that. And then so next week, it's kind of crazy. We're already at midterms at University of Butte. And then after midterms, we're going to start going into his resurrection and kind of like what that means to people of Christian faith.
How do you feel the professor is? Do you feel like the professor has a relationship with Jesus?
Yeah, definitely. You can kind of like...
So it's a woman, right?
It's a woman.
Do you feel like she... You know, she's passionate about what she's teaching, and when she teaches it, she wants you to come to know Jesus. Yeah,
she's very like, well, it's kind of hard, you know, like
you don't find that often at colleges.
Yeah, so like it's cool. I think it's kind of like some boundaries you have as like a religion professor, you know, regardless of where you're at.
Yeah.
But she does like a super good job of like kind of bringing like these big broad topics down and like making it like understandable for people who are starting to like grasp the concept. Like, you know, I am obviously still right now, and it's been super awesome. Good. Like she's very passionate about the subjects, and she has her PhD in theology and all that. So she's like very, very knowledgeable, obviously. Yeah. So it's been fun learning from her and from you and from Dan and from all these other people around me. Yeah. So that's been cool.
So in this class, I assume like you have questions, and obviously you can ask the professor some questions. But I'm sure there's some questions that you want to talk to someone close about, like questions that you have that maybe you don't want to say in front of the class. Do you leave that class with those type of questions sometimes? Does it make you think?
I think she like purposely leaves you with like
those?
Yeah, like no, like she purposely like leaves you like at the end of the class. She like kind of gives you these like things to think about throughout. Cool. Like so it's Tuesday, Thursday class. Like Thursdays, usually like over the weekend, we're kind of like thinking about like stuff we learned. So like we're kind of talking about like Jesus' crucifixion and kind of like what the cross means. And she kind of left us like a weird thing. It's like, is the cross like a religious symbol, or is it like symbolized like oppression? Because like when that Roman Empire back then in Jerusalem, like so for the people who are like robbers and people who did like bad things, usually they get stoned or they get hung.
The worst people.
And then like the people who tried to rebel against the Roman Empire, they were crucified. So like she's kind of asking if like the cross like symbolism of Jesus, or as like a whole like these people who were trying to like rebel against the Roman Empire. And it was kind of like an interesting thing to leave class with.
Yeah, so she leaves you with like thoughts to go that you'll think
and it
about
makes you like
the next class.
Sit there over the weekend. You're like, dang, like I want to get back to class so we can like discuss, because a lot of the class like discussion and like kind of like going off each other and all that. So it's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool to know. I'm glad you're enjoying that class. I don't think I've ever taken religion per se 101 class. I've taken classes on specific like Bible books, but never just an overall religion class. So I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I'm glad that you're getting good stuff out of it. Did you have any like questions, stuff you wanted to ask on the podcast, things that just like wrestling with maybe?
I know. I think one of the really cool things about having you as a friend is like from like weekend conversations or us going to Dunkin' or whatever.
Shout out, we're actually sponsored today. Dunkin'.
This might be cold.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway,
some things like I'm really grateful because a lot of the stuff like we learn in class, or like I've been spending a lot of time like reading the Bible on my own and like
that's awesome.
Watching different like videos and stuff. And I'm fortunate to have you as a friend. But some things that like have been kind of wearing at me lately is like, because Jesus talks a lot in like all the Gospels about like, like a specific thing is like the Sermon on the Plain when he talks about like, like woe are the people who are rich, and blessed are those who are poor.
Sure.
And I was wondering on your thoughts about like, can people be like rich, like high up on the social hierarchy and still have this like great relationship with God? And like, can it still be like a good thing, Like, is there a certain amount of wealth that it's like not needed,
Yeah. So James, actually, the book of James, have you covered that at all?
Anyway,
it talks about, it says, rich people know that God has humbled you, and those who are poor know that God has exalted you. So the Gospels, the New Testament kind of has a reverse thought to the world when it comes to riches. He says the rich have been humbled and the poor have been exalted. He says, don't you know that the poor are designed to be rich in faith?
Yeah.
So when we're poor, when either financially or in any other way, like we're more reliant on God because we need that. Jesus said, I'm sure you may have heard this before. He said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
So what he's trying to say there is that rich people don't know they need a savior. Rich people are their own savior. And I'm not saying a rich person can't be a Christian. I know plenty of wealthy people who love Jesus. There's nothing wrong with that. What Jesus is saying and what James is saying and what Luke says is that it's easier for a poor person to understand that they need Jesus for salvation, and that being rich makes it difficult to live a godly life. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I like to use people. A lot of people we look up to today, like rappers, people who just get an absurd amount of money thrown at them, at one time. And you can see how these people's lives like deteriorate, through time. Like,
I think part of the problem is they have like no like relationship with Jesus, and like, or if they do, they're not like, they don't have any like
and
experience.
Money can cloud
like, a lot of these people, they go from like being like, poor, like not all of them, I'm not saying this, but like a certain amount of people you see like get in trouble, or like they start like the lowest of the low in the social hierarchy. And then next thing you know, they have like, they put music on SoundCloud and Apple Music and they gain followers. and they have all these millions of dollars, and it's like, well, we just known to do these, rebellious things when we were younger, so I'm just going to keep doing it. But it's like at a broader scheme because you have all this money, and then that just leads to deterioration.
So money itself isn't evil.
Yeah.
Do you know it says that the love of money is the root of all evil. So being wealthy is not a problem. You can do a lot of good with a lot of money, But if you love that money, if you prioritize that money above your relationship with Jesus, which is so easy for someone who has that much money to do, for it to cloud their judgment, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when it starts to affect that relationship, and that's when it starts to corrode your life, and your life gets filled with all sorts of evil. So, yeah. Does that help at all?
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that definitely helped. And I thought that just thinking about it, one super cool thing, like we were talking before the podcast, like one of the, like some of the best things I've learned about, and one was like just like learn about the Sermon on the Plain, and Jesus talking to his disciples and followers up on the plain, and he's like, talking about loving your enemies. And I think something that really put that into perspective for me was there's this video on Twitter I saw a couple days ago where it's big news right now, but like the police officer, I think in Texas or whatever, who walked in, she thought it was her apartment, but she went into this other guy, like this guy's apartment, this black man's apartment, and she was scared and like shot the guy and killed him. Oh. And so like she's on trial, and like the guy's younger brother.
I've seen that. Actually.
It was one of the most like crazy, like most inspiring moments. Was like this kid's like, I don't want you to feel pain. I don't want you to go to prison. Like, talking about this woman who killed his brother, and like he's like, I just want you to like, I love you just as much as I love anyone else, and I just want what's best for you. Like, I don't even want you to go to jail. And like he's like, can I like give this woman a hug? And like they went and like hugged, and like he just like, I just want you to grow your relationship with Christ. And I was like, that's kind of crazy, because like I think for me, obviously there's been nothing obviously that like crazy that happened in my life, but like there's a lot of things that you want to like hold, like anger towards or things like that, like someone, like just like driving and someone cuts in front of you, like, oh, I want this guy to get a ticket or whatever. But like kind of like as I've started to grow my relationship with Jesus, seeing that like you just need to love your enemies, and like there shouldn't be harm brought upon them. You just need to hope that they kind of find a relationship with Jesus to like better themselves. And I thought that was super cool to think about.
Yeah, that is really cool. I think I've heard of that story. I never heard the full story, so that's really powerful. So this guy whose brother
was killed,
she murdered.
Yes.
He wants
he's
her
like
to grow
he's
in
like 15, 16 years. I don't know how he looked kind of younger.
He wants her to know Jesus.
Yeah, he wants her. He's like, I don't want you to go to jail. Like, I just want you to know Jesus.
Wow.
And like that's another thing on that Sermon on the Plain, and Jesus talking about like loving your enemies is like, so back in like that era when Jesus was alive in the Roman Empire, like for the people who were oppressed, like if you're above them, like the people higher up on the hierarchy, it was like a sign of like oppression when you slapped them with your backhand. So like what Jesus talked about, like something that I like newly learned was like, if they slap you in one cheek, show them your other cheek, because it's like if they slap you with your backhand and like bring it over here because you have to use your open hand, right? And so like they didn't do that back then. So I thought that was super interesting too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you are starting to, you have all this awesome information that you're just absorbing up from this class and from me and other people you're surrounded with. Crossroads.
Shout out Crossroads Church.
And you're just, you're retaining it all, and you're retaining it all, and you're learning, and you're growing in it. And I pray that like all that knowledge, and I know it is starting, and I know all that knowledge will turn into, genuine like feeling, all that intellect can be transformed into heart. Yeah. And that's really cool to see in you, and that's what we want for people,
Yeah, for sure.
It's really cool to have that information transform into something tangible, something real, something that you can interact with and share with others. That's really cool.
Nice.
Cool.
One thing else for it, I think it's just really cool what you guys are doing with this podcast and stuff. And
thank you.
I just hope I can keep growing my faith and my relationship with Jesus, And I think definitely a big part of that is, you're starting up that 180 ministry, and that's super awesome. And
that's going to be
going to Crossroads.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Going to Crossroads on Sundays, and just like talking to you in that religion class, kind of the whole collection's kind of making me stronger in my faith. So I'm just super excited to keep learning from these podcasts. So for you people, keep subscribing, keep watching these videos, keep liking them to get this word out there because they're spreading a really awesome message.
You hear that? Yeah. That's good, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me on another podcast. We got to close it out here. So thank you again for watching all the way through. Every Saturday nights we post. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. Sweet.
GG.
That's it.
Did I do all right or no?
No, you did awesome.
I feel like